Hey, and just like that, guys, we're live once again. It's me, Tom Owens, guys. You know me. Uh, since I got this new show going, guys, it's a little bit different than the MMA Fight Pass. What I do with those guys. This is actually today, guys. Is the first time I'm going outside the realm of mixed martial arts and jujitsu. That's my normal flow that I go with. Whole reason I started my own show is so that I could talk with different walks of life and different types of people and get different interest out there with different people. Anyhow, guys, today I got a great guest. A lot of you guys know that I've been doing these ultra marathons for probably like 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, and running's one of my favorite things to do on the side. And this past weekend, me and my sister Laura Roberts, we ran the San Joaquin River 50K up there above Fresno, above Millerton Lake. It was a beautiful race. And today, my guest, I got the race director and the owner of San Joaquin Running, Nathan T. Moore. How you doing today, brother?
Doing good, Tom. How about yourself?
Oh man, I'm doing good, man. Just got out of work. Just got out of work a little while ago. Got the rest of the day off, just hanging out. Man, I'm still recuperating from that race, man.
Yeah, that was it's a tough trail. It's definitely going to beat you up a little bit, and then the conditions we all had were added a little bit extra to it.
Oh man, yeah. On top, the trail was a tough run. That was a real trail run right there. And the conditions just happened to rain that same day, and yeah, the conditions were no joke. But you know what? At the end of the day, those conditions just add to the good time I felt. Out of all the trail runs that I've done, I've never had to run in the rain like that. So yeah, it was different, but man, it was well worth it at the end. Like I said, I'm still recovering from it. Today's probably the first day where I can get up out of bed and sit on the toilet without killing myself.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Oh man. Anyhow, this is the first time that I've met you. Through a screen. It's not face to face, but I saw you that morning there at the race. But I could tell you were tied up and you're pretty busy. I imagine that day of the race, it's probably nerve wracking. It's really busy. Me and my sister Laura Roberts Moore. It was her first ultra marathon, and I was there to kind of aid her and go along with her for that. So, man, we're real thankful for doing that one. Anyhow, we started at 6:30 a.m. that morning, but that same day you also had 100K going.
Yeah, and those guys started at 5:30. So a lot of what I had to do was just making sure that we had volunteers getting out to the right spots. So that's more like when I in the morning before you guys started your race. That's pretty much what I was focused on. We've got a boat out there in the water that has sets up one aid station that you guys hit out at mile 5, 6. They're supposed to be at mile 6, but they ended up kind of setting up in the wrong spot. And then the 100K turnaround's a little bit further up the river, and that's all by boat as well. So a lot of the times I'm just communicating with them because it's kind of tricky getting that boat out there when it's dark out. I mean, the park rangers won't even go out there when we're out there. So
That was something else, man. I figured that was your part of your team right there. The guys on the boat. I kind of waved to them and connected with them a couple times throughout the day. That was really something else. That's the first time that I've done that trail race right there. So, how many times have you done that race so far? It looks like like I said, I don't know you, but you've been doing the San Joaquin Running. That's the name of your company for how long? Let's start with that. How long have
it's
you
gonna
been doing that?
it's gonna be coming up on 10 years. So next year will be the 10th year of the first event that I originally put on, which was the San Joaquin River Trail Half Marathon. That one's in March. Um, yeah, so I started in 2014, I believe. That was the first year, and I originally my first idea for a race was the one that you ran, so that 50K. For years, I was running out there, starting back in 2010. I started running out on that trail. It's been out there for a while. Definitely not as many users back then as there are now, but I used to kind of daydream in my head of what that would look like putting on a race out there, and ended up starting with a half marathon. My wife kind of convinced me, like, hey, maybe you should start out a little bit smaller scale and then kind of build up from there just to see how it goes. So that's how it started with the half marathon, and then added in a couple more events. Just lots of cool trails around there, or utilizing even just sections of that trail to put on different events. It's a lot of fun. People seem to enjoy it, so I've continued to put it on. If people didn't come out, I wouldn't keep doing it. I'll tell you that. I keep running out
Oh,
there, but I I wouldn't put
Yeah,
on the events.
people were having a good time out there, bro. Um,
Good.
yeah, we had a great time. It's a beautiful trail. You know, everything that's going on in life and everything for me, a lot of stress and things like that. Man, that day right there, even though the rain just, you know what I mean, it just made it that much better. But the
Yeah.
stress and the anxiety release I got that day was great. But man, the look I was seeing and all the people I met throughout the day, it looked like everybody was having a great time. Everybody was really, you know, doing their thing. Now you had three events going there that day. Was there a 25K or a 20K also?
Yeah, 25K, just added that one this year, 50K, and then the 100K. 25K I just added because I know people want to come out and participate, but they're not necessarily ready for 50K, or maybe they've done the 50K or they've had a busy year. We're at the end of the year. A lot of people are kind of winding down before they start picking it back up for next year. So I felt like the 25K was a good option. Our permit is already allocated all that space for us anyway, so it's like might as well. And I think people had a good time on that one. 25K is not too bad. I mean, in comparison to the 50K or the 100K, especially the 100K. The 100K is hard. Um, but yeah, I think, I mean, for me, that didn't really add much like more work necessarily. So it was cool having those people out there, people that might not regularly participate. So I was happy they got to come out and got a decent turnout. And I think not too many people stayed home because of the rain. Hopefully everybody was pretty eager to run out in the rain. I seen, from what I could tell, everybody was in high spirits. Like you mentioned, everybody was having a great time. I definitely was probably more concerned about my volunteers being out in the rain versus the runners. So I feel like when you're running, it's not a big deal. Body's warm. Rain usually feels good as long as it's not like torrential downpour or freezing cold, you know. Sometimes those conditions will make it worse, but the temps were nice that day. Rain just probably added to the experience, like you said, made it a lot more fun.
Oh yeah, it made it fun. The rain was great. Your aid stations, your volunteers, man, everybody seemed were super cool out there. Um,
Cool.
I haven't done that many trail races, but I've paced a few people. I've done some pretty good ones throughout my time. Um, but you had some of the best aid stations that I've been through. One of your aid stations, the guy was up there barbecuing and cooking quesadillas, and man, he had everything. He had everything laid out right there. So yeah, the aid stations were great. Now, this type of running, the long distance running, how long have you been doing that in your life? And have you been a runner your whole life? Did you start as a young kid running or in
No,
school?
not at all. No, I just I played traditional sports, just like football, baseball, basketball, all that stuff. I didn't run for sport at all. Not intentionally. I just ran for, you know, whatever those other sports had you run for. I was in the Marine Corps. That's when I started running. Like we had to run as part of PT. So I kind of got into that. It wasn't until my second duty station, I was out at Camp Pendleton at a pretty chill duty station, and I got to go run kind of on the beach and some of the dirt roads behind the ranges out there. And that's when I started to like really enjoy it. And plus, I was platoon sergeant, so I got to lead the runs. I wasn't just following somebody else's pace. Once you get to set the pace and you get to set the distance, it's a lot more fun versus somebody just jerking you around, making you go further or faster or whatever. And that's kind of where I started to enjoy it. So I started, did my first marathon probably like 2005, I think. Kind of got into triathlon, and then from there, I actually got called back into the Marine Corps. I got recalled when I was going to Fresno State, and I had to do another year. Did a deployment, and then when I got back from the deployment, and I was all done with the Marine Corps, that's kind of when I got into ultra running. A little bit after that, actually. So it's probably like 2009, 2010. I started doing more of that stuff, and then I kind of found out about all the different crazy races that people were doing, and I just wanted to explore, you know, what that was like, see if I could do it, see how hard it was, see how well I could do it. After that first marathon I did back in like 2005 down in San Diego, I got wrecked, and it just was like a humbling experience. And at the
Yeah.
time, I thought I was super tough and I could just do it, go out there and wing it. And oh man, I got my ass handed to me. So I think that challenge that it presented was enticing to me because I was like, oh, I could get better at this. Like there are people of all shapes and sizes, and I mean, I got smoked out there. It was bad. Um,
That
so
was your first
that
long run?
challenge enticed me. What's that?
Was that the first long run that you did right there?
Yeah, it
Like
was a rock
in
and
a
roll
race, an
marathon.
actual signed up race?
Yeah, rock and roll marathon. And I ran a marathon beforehand. I was stationed at Pendleton. I just did like out and back to Carlsbad. And I ran a marathon beforehand just to see how it went. Got wrecked on that too, but I knew nothing about running at all. So that was like the challenge intrigued me. I was like, how do people do this? And they do it like they go fast, they feel good, they look good, and I'm out here dying like as soon as I get to 18. So it took me many years to figure it out, but I kept plugging away. Started 50Ks, 50 milers, did a bunch of 50-mile runs, and then started doing 100-milers. So I've tried to do a 100-miler every year since I started doing it. So I've done about 10 now, 10 100-milers, a bunch of 50-milers, a bunch of 50Ks, a
You've done
couple
that many
100Ks.
100-mile races, huh? What has
Yeah,
been your favorite 100-miler? Have you done the Western State 100?
not yet.
It's
I've been
hard to
in
get
that
into,
lottery.
man.
Yeah, I was in the lottery early on when I first started doing it, and you could do 50-milers for qualifiers. And I lost, like, one year I didn't finish a race. It was like my first DNF was in Tahoe at a 100-miler, and it was my only qualifying race. And back then, if you didn't have a qualifier and you DNF'd that year, like you lost all your tickets. So I had to start from scratch the next year. And then the year after that, I started directing the Two Cities Marathon, and I totally missed putting my name in for the lottery. So I had to reset my tickets again. So this year, I'm back at 16 tickets, didn't get pulled. But next year I'll have 32, so my odds will go up. But in terms of my favorite race, I do love that race. I've gone out there, I've paced one of the guys that I coach. I paced another friend or another person through my old coach. She set me up with somebody to go pace out there. So I've run 40 miles, like from Forest Hill all the way into the finish. And then I paced another friend from from Michigan Bluff down to Rucky Chucky, which is about 20-ish miles, 24 miles. So the race is amazing, but I had to run it
It's
all by
awesome,
myself.
man.
Yeah.
It's
It's
awesome.
so much fun. It's crazy. I think my favorite race, I think I've got two, like at 100-milers that I've done, is Tahoe Rim Trail 100. That race, like the quality of production that they put on is amazing. 8
What is it?
stations, like you're talking
What's the
about.
name of that one?
Tahoe Rim Trail 100-mile run, and they
Okay.
have
The
a
Tahoe Rim Trail.
50 and they have a 55K. And that one does it's loops. So you got 2 loops. And it's up near, it starts in Carson City now. It used to start at Spooner Lake, which was really cool. But that one, the race production is great. Like there are 8 stations. I try to take cues from other events of things that I like and try to replicate that in my own races best I can. But their volunteer support, their 8 stations are hands down like amazing. And then also there's one down in Wrightwood, Southern California, is Angeles Crest 100-miler. I've done that one 3 times now. I like that one because it's a Western States qualifier, and then it's also a qualifier for Hard Rock 100, which I've been in the lottery for that for a few years now. So that one you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Like you go run that race, and you get both those qualifiers because not that many races are qualifiers for Hard Rock 100.
Nathan, are all these the 100-milers? I know the sport is getting more popular and more popular, but are all of these 100-milers there? Do you have to qualify in the 50-miler for any of those to get into any of them?
Usually they'll ask you if you've done a race, and they want to know, like it's got to be usually within a year, anywhere from like 50 to 100 miles. But they're not as strict as some of the other ones. So Angeles Crest does have a lottery. Tahoe used to have a lottery. I think the numbers have gone down, so everybody's been getting into the 100-miler. But they usually want to have. I'm gonna say that like typically you have to have run like X distance in a certain amount of time. I mean that just prevents people coming out there that shouldn't be out there, right? Like some
Just
people
jump
go
right
out
in
there,
there.
they go watch a David Goggins video and they think they're gonna go
Right,
run
right.
100 miles, and they're not ready for it. So it's
Exactly.
not. It's a liability. I mean, from a race director standpoint, you want somebody that has some experience so they can take care of themselves. They're not taking a spot from somebody that could potentially run the race and not have any problems. I think some ultra runners get annoyed by that. You got people that just like have no business being out there. Not to say that they can't build up to it, but I'm just saying that maybe they're not ready yet, and people want to jump out there because they just want to do it for whatever number of reasons, but they end up taking somebody's spot and they drop it like 30 miles in, which is
Serious. And
because they're
then you got
tired.
that lottery. You don't want
Yeah,
the
and then if
wrong.
they're in the
You don't want the
lottery,
wrong people in that lottery, man.
yeah, and I mean, there's no wrong person, but those are just my own little personal things, and some of my friends have felt the same way because you feel like somebody like they just kind of earn their spot, if anything. But if the lottery's open and you get in through the lottery, you got one ticket and it's your first 100 miler, I think that's awesome too. So
Man, crazy, man. What a crazy sport, dude.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people, gone to a lot of cool places. I think experiencing all those natural, like wild places on foot, it's a really intimate way to experience the landscape and get to know places. And you get to see things that not that many people see. Not necessarily just at races, but I mean, I'll run ultra distance just on my training runs in the Sierras around here and stuff like that. And that's a blast, you know. It's probably more fun than doing a race, to tell you the truth. Because then you get lost, you can do all sorts of fun stuff, do whatever you want. It's a lot more fun.
That area that we just did that race this last weekend, you had it all. Are you the one that marked that whole trail with those the orange flags?
I marked probably like 90% of it. I had a friend help me with that first like 5 miles. But yeah, I marked the rest of it. Like I said, I've been running out there forever. That course is like my backyard practically.
That's your spot right there. Yeah, that place is gnarly, man. Now that the 100K, what does that come out to? Like 64 miles? Is that what it is?
About 62.
62 miles?
Yeah, 62 miles. It's got about 11,500 feet of climbing. Um, it's a hard course. On paper,
It's a
it looks
hard course.
easy. Yeah, on paper, it looks easy. We've had guys come from, women and men come from all over. We've had people from France. We've had people from like Colorado, all the states, and then different countries as well. Canada, Belgium. Was it Belgium or Austria? I don't know, something like that.
That's
And
cool, man.
yeah, it's cool. Like I think people visit Yosemite and they're in the area and they see that on their radar, so they plan it out. But like I said, on paper it looks easy because these guys, a lot of them run mountains. So in the mountains, you're like, oh, it's altitude. You got big
Yeah.
climbs, but from being out there, that course is just constantly rolling. And so when you're doing that for
Yeah, that's
62
what it
miles,
was.
it just grinds you down, and you don't
Oh
realize it because you can
man.
run the whole course. There's nothing that steep out there, but it'll just gradually like eat you, and then you just kind of like fall apart. You're like, shit, this is hard.
Yeah, it's tough. And that water, man, the slickness, dude, I was wearing the wrong shoes too, man. Oh man, I didn't even want to talk about it. I knew better though, but I didn't wear trail shoes, man. I had like good.
Oh man.
Oh man, dude, I've done that a lot of times, running in the mountains just with my regular running shoes, and I
Mhm.
haven't had a problem. But I had never ran in those conditions before. So man, but like I said, it was one more of the challenges. It was great, but
You
dude, man,
definitely could have used trail shoes that day.
oh man, the trail shoes. Even the people I saw so many people with, even with the trail shoes that were going down. If you weren't paying attention at all, you can go down pretty easily. But
Oh
yeah, it
yeah.
was cool. Hey, so when we doing the 50K, we went to that bridge and then we turned around and went back. How did it work for the people doing the 100K?
So they continue across that bridge. Then they go up? They go up a trail that's called the Passan Ridge Loop, and so they kind of go up to the right. It's about 3 miles. So after that bridge, those runners, the 100K runners, have 3 miles. It's about 1,200 feet of climbing. They go up over this ridge loop and they come down to an aid station, and then they do an out and back on the other side of the river. So they do an additional like however many more miles, 15 miles on that side of the river, and it's not as highly used of a trail as the one that you guys were on. Like that trail that you utilized for the 50K is used, quite often. It's really tracked out, easy to follow.
Right.
Path is relatively smooth. The 100Kers, as they go further out, like get closer to the turnaround, the trail just kind of like gets really rough because not that many people go out there. So I have tons of ribbon to market, but the trail, it just it's not as even of a surface. It's a little bit harder to follow, and it definitely takes a toll on you in a way that like you don't notice because it's like that cumulative effect. So that back into the course for the 100K runners, I feel like is deceivingly tough. Like I said, it's on paper, looks easy. You're like, no big climbs, like no altitude, but that's it's what you don't see on the paper, like on the elevation profile. That's the hard part.
Man, when I was at one point, I saw it looked like the young man that he was in the lead for the 100K. I think he might have been from Humboldt area. I just talked to him real briefly. He was a younger dude with long hair. Is he the
Yeah,
guy that
yeah,
got first? What was that kid's name? Do you
yeah.
remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but he was I think he's from Washington. So he
He was
might have
from up
been,
north.
yeah. Um, yeah, younger guy. I think he was only 29. I don't know if he was in the lead the whole way, but I think they switched spots, like him and one other guy. They're going back and forth. But he looked good. I think overall those times were, with the rain, like between the 50K and 100K, they're pretty slow across the board. So they still did great, but you could tell how much the conditions affected everybody's times, because I'm sure it would have been like easily an hour faster for the 100K and 50K runners, like anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes faster for sure.
Just out of curiosity, around what was the time those first few guys came in? Like how
I want to
much
say
time did?
he was like 12, a little over 12 hours, maybe like 12:28.
That's
And then it kind of
amazing.
trickled in after that. Our course record for that 100K is 9:58, which is
Wow,
insane.
man,
Yeah.
that is gnarly.
Yeah. So
Dang.
it gives you an idea of how much faster it can be on a dry day with somebody out
Wow,
there that's like a 2:30 marathoner. Not
man,
necessarily the
that's something
marathon
else.
translates. Yeah, it's crazy fast.
It's crazy. And that young dude, he didn't look like he was hurting at all, man. He looked like he was having a great time, dude. The first, I was the last guy on that 50K. Just let it be known.
You enjoyed it the most.
Oh, dude, I loved it, man. I just on purpose. I wouldn't have been in the front anyways. I can go long, but I'm pretty slow, dude. But man, I just like being by myself in the back of that trail. My sister was in front of me, and she was doing it for her. Like I said, for her first time, it was a big goal for my sister Laura to just do her first ultra. And man, that trail was the real deal, dude. It was the real deal for her to do her first one. Anyhow, when that thing started, man, I realized right away I didn't have the right shoes, but also I've been going through a lot of stress in my life, man, a lot of stress and anxiety these last
Mhm.
couple years. And I'll tell you what, I needed that day out there. Just what I did was just perfect for me, man. And I wanted to make a video too. I think you might have saw the video I made for this podcast. I threw a little music in there. If you guys want to see the course a little bit, though, I made a video and you guys can see some of the trail on there. But man, dropping back like that, the cool thing about it was I saw the leaders from the first or the shorter race, the 20K, 20, 25.
Mhm.
And then I was able to see the first like 3 or 4 guys from that 100K come through, man. And they were loving it. Like I said, they were doing their thing. They had a great time. And man, I know they had to be hurting inside, but you couldn't tell that they had, you know what I mean? You couldn't tell it was anywhere for the worse. So yeah, it was cool,
Some of
man.
those guys are just absolute beasts. I mean, I don't even know. Maybe they don't hurt until like the very end.
Oh
I don't
man,
know.
who
I think
knows?
we've all had days like that where you go out, you do a run, and you feel like you could run forever. So that's a good feeling. I feel like some of those guys come through and they just look like that.
Oh yeah. Then plus you're enjoying that beauty that was out there. That was a
Oh
beautiful
yeah.
course. I mean, the way that went along that lake and then up that river and everything was beautiful. Do you have any other events that are coming up anytime soon on that same course?
Yeah, we've got. I've got a few in January. I've got one that's in Winchell Cove, and it's a little bit further down. It's closer to the actual lake. It's a flat course. It's all single track trail. It runs right along the lake. Beautiful views, and you kind of go back into the cove, Winchell Cove. And that's 10K, 10 mile. That's on January 7th. And then we've got one out at Sycamore Island, which is also along the San Joaquin River, but it's actually close to Woodward Park. It's on the Madera side of the river. That one's 10K and 5K. That one's a lot of fun as well. And then we've also got the San Joaquin River half marathon, San Joaquin River Trail half marathon, March 4th. And that one's where the big bridge is that you turned around at. So that half marathon course keeps you in that area, and you kind of do a figure eight on the trails out there. So you end up doing the Passan Ridge Loop, like I mentioned, the 100K runners do. That one's tough. Kind of a little side note on that one. When I first started that, I messed up the distance when I was marking the course. I staged some supplies a little bit further on the out and back. It ended up being like almost 14 miles. It's probably like 13.7. And I put this stuff down and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, we're going to leave
Yeah.
this and it'll be a good day. People will get a little
Oh
bit extra,
yeah,
but who
dude.
cares? So since then, I've just left it. So it's always been like long and everybody's giving me crap, but it's pretty hilarious to see everybody come through looking at their watch, looking at me, cussing me out. And they're like, that's not a half marathon. That's way over. But everybody has a good time. That one's a hard race too. That half marathon is, like I said, that was my first event. And that one's just under 14 miles, and it's got like 2,500 feet of climbing, which is
Oh,
it's a
wow.
decent amount of climbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
On some technical trails, so it's a lot of fun though.
That's a good amount of climbing, and the way the trail is. Like I said, I've been on a lot of different trail runs where they use the fire roads as the trail, which is cool too. There's a lot of the race. I mean, that's cool too. It's great. There's nothing wrong with it. But man, it was like even my sister said, man, this was a real trail run. That's like a lot. Most of that was, wouldn't you say, like most of it was single track trail?
Yeah, I think. I mean, for the 50K, almost the entire thing is single track. You cross the road once to get across that parking lot to get back on the trail to go down the bridge, but other than that, you're on single track like the entire time.
Awesome,
Yeah,
man.
100K goes up a little fire road. They do an out and back, but otherwise they're on single track too. So
Hey, I got no problem
it's hard
with
to
the
get trails
fire.
like that.
I love fire roads, man. But I love it all, man. I love it all. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
James
it's nice
Miller,
being out there.
got to say hi to James Miller. Got to give a shout out to James Miller. You've probably met him before. I think he's done a couple
Oh
of your
yeah.
races. He was there. And the team Ibuprofen from Bakersfield, that's who my sister, she lives in Bakersfield, Laura Roberts Moore. They run with the
Awesome.
team Ibuprofen. Yeah, so props to those guys. They were out there that day loving it up, man. It was really something else. Now, Nate,
Yeah.
yourself, you have any big races, or what do you got coming up next?
Well, I just put in the lottery. I put my name in the lottery for Angeles Crest again. Like I said, I like that race. It's a qualifier. It's not that far away. So I don't know when they draw names for that, but I'm kind of like figuring it out. They just did a lottery for Western States. I didn't get in. I was kind of waiting on that to figure out what I was going to do. So we'll see. I think there's a few different courses that I've heard of that are really nice. There's one High Lonesome 100. I want to say that's out in Colorado. That one's supposed to be really nice.
That one's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, and then there's a few others that I might jump into around here that I've done before. Probably some 50Ks, 50 milers. And then just lots of running in the Sierras once summer comes around and all that snow melts out. I love running out here. Got access to a lot of great trails I mean, it's a little bit of a drive from my house, but not that bad. And it's areas that oh yeah, it's totally worth it. A lot of areas where just like you don't see anybody. I got run out there for 8 hours, not see a single soul.
Oh, man, great. I
and
know.
it's just as beautiful or close to as like Yosemite, So, and then we
Yep.
also got this year coming up, which I haven't even announced at all to anyone except for a few friends that I know. We're going to do a trail running camp out in Sequoia National Park. My friend Jameson, he owns a yoga studio here locally, but he's got connections with a big camp out there that they have cabins and they have rooms and stuff like that. They have a cafeteria. So we're going to do like a few days out there where we're going to take a group of runners that come out and we're going to take them to different trails out there in Sequoia. Kind of show them around, have a good time. We're supposed to have Max King, who's an amazing trail runner.
Yeah.
He's going to join us. Yeah, he's going to join us as well.
That's cool, man.
That's going to come up in August. It's like the first week of August. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. Then you're up there in the elevation too. That's one of my favorite places to run, all around like Morro Rock and that whole area up there. Oh man, it's beautiful up there, dude. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
If a person wants to get in and do something like that, do you have your own website or what?
Yeah, it's all on. Nothing is up for that camp yet, but for all the races, they're all on SanJoaquinRunning.com. Also, Instagram, like you can get to on our link tree on there, you can get through everything at San Joaquin Running. So they can see them all through there, SanJoaquinRunning.com and Instagram at San Joaquin Running. And it's got all the info up on the races. We got registration for all the events for next year. I think I've got like 9 events next year that everything's, with the exception of one race, everything's open to register.
Oh, that's so cool, man. What a trippy life you're living, bro. What a trippy life you're living. Hey, when you were young, did you ever think you'd be doing something like this?
Not at all, man. Not at all.
So,
I had no clue.
God, that's crazy. For me, when I wasn't a runner when I was younger either. I was into martial arts and things, and I would compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments. And what I would do for my cardiovascular, I just knew to run, like running up in the hills in the elevation. They would always say if you would run in the elevation, you could build up your cardio good. And man, through doing that, I just fell in love with the running. And then later on, a buddy of mine gave me that book from Dean Karnazes. I think it might have been his first book.
Yeah, Ultra Marathon Man.
Ultra Marathon, man. I read that book and I had no idea that people even did this type of thing. And like I said, I had never ran any marathons or anything like that. And I read that book and I go, man, this is really something else, man. If you could just to try it would be cool. And that's how
Yeah.
I got into it. For you, I mean, what was the first thing you heard about ultra marathons, or the first person that you saw that was like a mentor or something?
Man, I wish I had a mentor. Wouldn't have made so many mistakes.
Haha.
I think I read that. I know I read that book too, by Dean Karnazes. I don't know if that's the first place I heard about it, but I read. I think he had that book. He had another book that I read. It was after I did the first marathon though. Somehow I came up on. I started looking for other events because I was really curious, and I came across 50 milers, and that just like I saw 50-mile runs and it blew my mind. I was like, "There's no way." Like I just did a marathon. I'm wrecked. Like, how do you do that again? And then like you just go down the rabbit hole, right? Like you're like, oh, there's 100 milers, and now there's like 200s all over the place. Um, so I definitely want to try out a 200, but yeah, I don't think there was a single person that like showed me the way. It was really hard, like around here, because there wasn't that many people running trails. We didn't have any of these trail races. That's part of the reason why I wanted to put on events out here, is because I was always going down south or up north. If I was in California doing races, like there wasn't anything in the Central Valley. As far as I knew, there were road races, but nothing like on the trails. Um, and then I tracked down a few guys here locally that I started training with. Found out about San Joaquin River Trail because I needed hills to train on, to go out and do these trail races, and kind of just went from there. And just never looked back. It's been fun, man. I mean, I'm out there all the time. I pulled all those ribbons on the course. I've been out on the course like this week. I was out there all last week. I don't think it ever gets old, man. Never gets old. I love being out there. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh man, it's absolutely beautiful. That's for sure. It looked like when we had those fires last year, it got a little bit of that area, huh?
It
Doesn't
didn't
look like it
come
got much.
down. It didn't come down that low. It was just right above where you cross that bridge in Auberry. The fires came down like in some of the spots in Auberry, and there's been a few little spot fires here and there, but nothing like big that came down that low. Um, and then the year before that with the Creek Fire, or maybe 2 years ago, I mean that one came down pretty low too. But I think if anything, it just prevented us from going out there because it was covered in smoke and ash. Like even my house down here, that whole summer. I mean, thankfully we didn't lose our house or anything. Like a lot of people had it way worse. So my only
Yeah,
complaint was I couldn't run.
yeah. Thankfully, you guys didn't lose your house, dude. That's great, man. So, what's coming up as far as your events? That if there's people out there, I got people that are always asking me about these events. Do you have any events that you would like to mention that are coming up?
Yeah, so Winchell Cove, it's January 7th. That's down at Millerton Lake. That one's great. I think that one's great for whether you've been running trails forever, you want to go run a fast race. It's a relatively flat course, all single track, right along the water. Has a few hills in the 10 miler. 10K is almost pancake flat. Um, but it's great for somebody that's running forever, wants to run fast, or if somebody's brand new and they don't want to get their soul crushed by running all those hills. And they can run the whole race and it's not too bad, but they get the feel for it. It's beautiful. So that one's January 7th. And then January 22nd, Sycamore Island. And then February 5th, we've got one out at Hensley Lake, and that one's really fun too. It's 10K, punchy, short hills. Then we got a mountain bike race to follow that. So that
Yeah.
was February 4th. And like I said, everything's on San Joaquin Running, the homepage. We got our listing of all the 2023 races with the dates. They can go on there. Shadow of the Giants is another big run. That's 20K and a 50K that we have up in Fish Camp, California. That one's been going. I took that over from a friend, Baz. That one's been going for like 30. I think we're coming up on 34 years. That race has been going on. That was my introduction into trail racing, and the race director out there was one of the reasons that kept me around. He was hilarious. He's a character. For anybody that's ever met him, like they can attest to that. But
What was his name?
Baz Holly. And so
Yeah.
he lives in England now, but he's from England originally. And he's back out there. But he was crazy, man. Can't get away with the stuff he used to do now because he would have got canceled real quick. He would have got canceled like 20 times. But he's hilarious. Like he's just cussing people out, yelling at people. He was all about having a good time. He was always joking. But it was a lot of fun. Totally caught me off guard. I just remember being out there that first time, and I was like, "Oh man, I just got out of the Marine Corps, so getting cussed at was like normal."
Yeah.
I felt like I was back at home. I was like, "Oh, okay, I
I've done
belong
that
here."
event. That event was cool right there, man. The one
You
at
done
Fish
Shadow?
Camp.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one's fun. Love that
that was
spot.
beautiful, man. That was
That one's
beautiful.
gotten hit by a couple fires, but we still got some sequoias out there that you can go through, and those fire roads are nice. Just being out in the forest, it's a cool spot, and it's right by Yosemite. Literally as close as you can get to Yosemite, putting on a race.
That's cool, man. That's something else, dude.
Yeah.
So, what about like sponsors and stuff? Do you have any sponsors? Anybody out there you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, definitely. Our series sponsor is Brandon Yudich of Principal Financial. He's been amazing. He's been sponsoring the series. So we have a race series where all these races that I mentioned, like over the span of a year, you get points for each race, and we have awards at the end of the year. So right now, I have that series has been updated, Central California Race Series, and it's all my races. You get points based off the distances that you're running. It's all explained online, and then we do awards for our like top five. They get nice stuff. They get what I've given out in the past is Patagonia like nano puff jackets that are embroidered with race logo and stuff on there. Um, so big shout out to Brandon for sponsoring that series. Fleet Feet Sports Fresno, they've been a huge sponsor ever since I started this. And also Tower Yoga is going to come in for our series next year. So big shout out to Jameson and Kelly over at Tower Yoga. And then got to thank my screen printer and embroidery, even though they don't sponsor me, but they put up with all my tardiness on sending them designs and logos. Is M&M Screen Printing in Clovis. So I appreciate those guys. They do all of our shirts and stuff like that, and they do a great job most all the time. So
It's awesome to have people like that in your corner, man. That's for sure, dude. And also,
definitely.
man, when I was, checking you out and kind of checking out some of your photos, it looks like you and your family, you guys all run. It looks like your family's into this whole deal too.
Yeah, not as much. My wife has done some 50Ks in the past when we first started. She kind of had some back and hip problems, so she gravitated more towards yoga. And she got her teacher training. She started teaching yoga and stuff like that. That got me into yoga, which was great. So I've been doing yoga and made some friends through that. And it's definitely helped out with my running. My kids are active. I'm trying not to like push them into running, right? Like I don't want them to hate it. If they want to do it, I want them to do it to enjoy
That's a
it. But
good
yeah,
way.
my kids will come out. They'll do the races every now and then, like some of the 5Ks out on the trail and stuff like that. They do parkour and like ninja training, and then they do some other sports too. So
That's
they
cool,
all
man.
they've been around it their whole life. That's all I know. I just like getting them outside. I mean, I take them backpacking and stuff like that. So I just want them to have that appreciation for being in the outdoors. I don't really mind if they're hiking or running. You don't have to go fast to enjoy it necessarily. Um, I feel like hikers criticize us a lot of times for going too fast when we're out there. So
Yeah.
get to soak it up a little bit more. But yeah, they've all been around it. They've all done some of the races. Like I said, they do the 5Ks, and um, they all come out. Like they didn't come out this weekend just because my wife had to work. So typically they've been out there all the years past, like all the events.
That's awesome, man. Hey, just having them, even if they don't do the running, just having them back you up is a big thing right there.
Oh, 100%. My wife's helped
Oh
me out a
yeah,
ton.
it's huge,
She
man.
supported me from the beginning, so that was
That's
huge because
great.
I like quit my regular job to do this full time. So that was a big leap, and she supported me since started.
That's awesome, man. Well, I wish you the best. I hope everything keeps going great for you. And man, I hope that I've been in that lottery for that Western State 100, man. But you know
One day,
what?
one day.
I know. Um, I I did that American River 50. It took me 2 times before I could do that 50 miles in under 11 hours. Just that was my way to get into that lottery, but I didn't get into it. But you know what? I knew there was a lot of people that have been running and doing all these things way longer than me that still don't get into it too. But man, I was able to pace a lady one year though in that Western State. This lady, she's probably she'll watch the show later. Props out to her too, Jean Richards. She was the older lady that was on that trail one year, and I was able to get on there and pace her. But man,
Nice.
that is a beautiful place, man. That where that
That's
Western States is at. Oh
yeah,
man,
cool
something
spot, and
else.
like just the energy out there. Like everybody's so excited for
Oh,
the
dude,
event.
everybody. It was a
Oh,
whole different thing, man. Just going out there and witnessing that, and just just being her pacer and going from aid station to aid station, and then the point when I could get on the race. And at one point, she was an older lady. She was like 68 years old. She fell behind the time a little bit, and they pulled her off of it. But she had still went quite some ways. It was amazing to me to see a person do that and to witness it right there. So, yeah, big props to you, Nate. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time, dude. That man, your last event was awesome. I thought it was well put together. You ran it really well. The vibe out there, man, from the start. We got there right at the start. We were a little bit behind, but we'll be back though. We're going to be back to more of your events for sure. We'll be back. I'll be able to meet you face to face and shake your hand. And I look forward to that day. So much props to you, man. I hope everything goes good for you. I hope you get through that lottery. And man, when you make it to that Western States, bro, I want to talk to you again, man.
Right on. I appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for the support. Like I said, hope to see you back out there. Can't take all the
name of your website one more time.
SanJoaquinRunning.com.
SanJoaquinRunning.com. You guys, you heard it right there. Anybody that watches my videos, man, I know this is different from my normal thing. Normally, we're talking about mixed martial arts, cage fights, and jiu-jitsu matches. But the cool thing about doing my own podcast is what I've always wanted to do is I can talk to different walks of life and people that experience different things in life. And man, there's so much cool things out there. I like things that are challenging for our mind and for the body. And ultra marathon running is really something. It's one of the hardest and the coolest things I've ever done in my life. I fought in cage fights and done jiu-jitsu matches, but the hardest thing I've ever faced in my life is being on one of these long ultra marathon races out there in the mountains where you get to some points that you want to stop, you want to quit, you get mad, you get happy, you get all these emotions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a trip, dude. So anyhow, bro, I thank you once again, man. Everybody out there, you guys please give a like and share the video, pass it on. And Nathan, I'll talk to you again, my brother.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Have a good evening, brother.
All right. Take care.